You're listening to Pediapain Pain Focus, episode number 44. Today, we discuss goal setting for pediatric pain professionals, or for that matter, any healthcare professionals. We talk about why it matters and how you can not only set appropriate goals, but also ensure that you can achieve them. So, stay tuned.
Pediapain Pain Focus.
You're listening to Pediapain Pain Focus, brought to you by Proactive Pain Solutions. Pediapain Pain Focus highlights pediatric pain information and provides tools and resources for all healthcare professionals taking care of children dealing with pain. Here's your host, Dr. Anjana Kundu.
Hey there, friends. This is your host, Dr. Anjana Kundu, wishing you a very happy and hopeful new year. Welcome to the first podcast episode of 2021 with me. 2021, a year that everyone, or at least almost everyone I know, is looking forward to and very eager to move out of 2020 and into 2021. Can you blame anyone for feeling that way though? Just take a look at the state of affairs in 2020. It is but natural to want to get out and as far away as possible. People want to put as much distance between themselves and the year 2020 as they possibly could and as quickly as they possibly can. Heck, most people want to just wipe it out of their memory altogether. And under these circumstances, at least for many, it may really be hard or even intimidating for that matter to make goals for the new year, for 2021. What with the challenges and the changes and the stressors and the uncertainties that happened because of this pandemic that we are still reeling from. However, I would submit to you that this is exactly the reason to face all those challenges, those intimidations, and decide to start the new year with hope and more conscious thought and intentions. I say to you, rather than running away from something, we must look forward to going towards something with intention. Now, this episode may seem to you like I'm going a bit off track for an episode that's titled Pediapain Pain Focus, but it's not. For one, it has the word focus in right within it, and what could be more true to focus than goal setting, an intentional approach to something. And more importantly, because this podcast is about bringing you information, skills, and tools that help you become the most accomplished, a versatile pediatric pain clinician that you can be. And for approaching things, be it your patient interactions, your work, or the year that's ahead of you, approaching them all with focus, clarity, and intention is essential for successful and optimal outcomes. I'm sure you'll agree with me on that. So, true to the focus part, here we are talking about your focus for the year 2021. As I said in one of our more recent episodes, I think it was the episode number 40, you are more than just a diagnoser and a treater of pain. You're a leader, you're an expert, a mentor, a coach, and much, much more than just somebody who diagnoses the condition and prescribes something, right? And in order to fulfill all those roles with expertise and confidence, you must approach them with awareness and with intention. And hopefully this exercise that we will do today, with the framework that I will be bringing you, this will become an easy peasy job for you. So, if you were thinking of skipping this one, don't. Come back to me. It is essential for you to not just be the best clinician, but also for you to have success in all other spheres of your life as well. So this little exercise, which I tell you should only take you about 15 to 20 minutes if you actually sit down to do it, you must do this. This is a small price to pay for a successful, a positive, a pleasant, and a mindful year ahead. Whether you're a seasoned goal setter or someone who's just dabbled in it off and on, or you're new to goal setting concept, which, to be honest, I don't really believe is true, because you wouldn't have gotten to this point in your life if you didn't exercise goal setting before today. But in case you just believe, you just hold on to that belief that you are new to this, you're not a goal setter, maybe you just didn't do it with intention and with conscious awareness of it, and maybe you didn't use a systematic approach to it, but that's okay. That doesn't mean that you didn't set goals before today. But today, we're going to do this with intention and with a system, a stepwise approach. Regardless of where you are on this issue or your belief system about goal setting, this episode has something to offer each one of you. Trust me when I say that at the end of this episode, you will walk away with an essential skill that will not only increase your productivity, but it'll also bring so much clarity and satisfaction in every sphere of your life. So let's get into this episode. Now, I've divided this into basically why is it important, or why should one even bother goal setting or be intentional about it. Number 2, what should be included in goal setting. And number 3, how to go about goal setting. How would you know what goals to set and how to do them so that they're meaningful, so they're effective, and they will serve the purpose that you need them to serve. And finally, of course, as a bonus, I go on to tell you how you can figure out, how you can determine whether your goals are working, whether you're on track to meet them, and what sort of things you can do to measure that progress. So let's get started. Number 1 is why. Why should one bother to set goals? Why is it relevant or even meaningful? You should set goals for several reasons. Number 1, it is essential for progress. Now think about it. If you just treated the changeover or movement into 2021 as just another day, and you just roll from one year into another, you're missing out on an opportunity for growth and progress. Not taking intentional steps and just not doing it consciously and mindfully means that you can only go where your subconscious or your habits will take you, right? It'll be just your known places, the familiar destinations, the places you've been before. But if you want to move forward, if you want to achieve new milestones, if you want to go to new destinations, you must do them consciously, mindfully, and with a little bit of effort. It will take some action and some effort from you, and not to mention, of course, the intent and commitment and some dedicated time and energy. But remember, I just told you that dedicated time and energy is a very, very small amount of time and energy that is required, and I will give you a good framework to make it even more effective and efficient so you can do this quickly. I'll even include a PDF to walk you through. So in case you are listening to this while you're out and about, you are going on your drive or exercising, wherever you're taking me with you, first of all, thank you for doing that. But more importantly, don't worry about it. I have this framework in a PDF that you can just download when you have a moment, but please go through this exercise. All right, back to why. And back to how it is essential for your progress. In case you were saying that you don't have the time or energy, I'm going to call you out on that. Because, like I said, it is going to take very little time, and I'm giving you a stepwise approach, so it should be even less time than that. But just the fact that you're saying you have no time or energy to deal with this, something that is likely to improve your life, you, my friend, definitely need this exercise, even more so. And that's exactly and even more of the reason you need to be going through this exercise. So take advantage of this PDF, take advantage of this podcast episode, and just put in those 15-20 minutes, and voila, you will have a wonderful, intentional path into 2021. Listen, if you have no time and energy to do anything but for the stuff that's keeping you stuck in the same place, you're wasting your efforts. You don't want to be the hamster on the wheel. Not all the time, at least, right? Once in a while, we all get into that situation. But it wouldn't be smart to stay stuck there, right? So you would want to do something to get out of that. You would want your efforts to produce results, right? Results that mean and translate into progress and not something that's keeping you spinning your wheels all the time. Now, I'm sure you would not accept that from your patients, your children, your friends, your other people that you love and care about in your life. You wouldn't use that excuse or accept that excuse at all. And no, you wouldn't want to accept it. I know you wouldn't. You would encourage them to make a change, maybe even help them brainstorm ideas, maybe help figure out a way to move forward and find the light that they can follow. Then why would you not do the same for yourself? Doing more of the same thing over and over will keep you in the same place, the same destination, the same state. So if you're feeling lack of time and energy, doing more of the same is going to keep you right there, perhaps even more frustrated and more stuck and more strained for time and energy. Do you want to spend another year like that? I don't think so. It's like reading the same chapter of a book over and over and thinking that you're going to learn a new concept. I'm sure you wouldn't learn anything, none. To learn something new, you will need to turn the page to make some progress. To learn something new, to make some progress, you will need to put some effort and inertia and turn that page, do something different. Look, I'm not picking on you. You're not alone. We've all been there. And to be honest, I'll give you a quick example of one of my friends recently. She is a great clinician, was even a good leader, and was leading a division. Unfortunately, she was doing this at an institution where she couldn't see progress forward because the pediatrics was a very small area and small focus of the big institution. She felt like the hamster on the wheel. She couldn't make any progress. She would feel like all her efforts were going to waste. She would work so hard. She was working harder than she had ever worked before and had made very little to none progress at all. So where do you think that got her? A lot of frustration, a lot of stress, tension, and a detachment from that job itself, right? So, of course, we have a conversation about her changing the job. And of course, she was like, I am too busy to even think about anything else, where I want to go, what I want to do. And I literally walked her through this framework and she worked on it. She went ahead and interviewed a couple places. And as a matter of fact, is starting a new job next week. A job that fulfills the goal that she's looking forward to, at least in theory, all the framework that she laid out for herself is being met by this job at this time. She's feeling a lot more relieved that she's out of that stressful situation, looking forward to something that she has been wanting to do, looking forward to contributing in a way that she can, therefore feel fulfilled. Okay, enough about the ability to make progress. Now, other reasons include, number 2 is that goal setting is crucial to keep your mental and physical skills sharp. Now, goal setting requires you to put forth thought and intention, evaluate the situation in the past, current, as well as your future state, right? It requires engagement, investment, and just basically a thought process that will require mental exercise. It also motivates you to consider what skills you need to fulfill those goals in all areas of life. So the end result is that you're exercising your mental, emotional, and even your physical skills. And thus, you're keeping them sharp and up to the mark, matched with your desired progress. Number 3 It is really important for maintaining focus and anchoring, giving you that sense of anchoring. Now, without a goal to keep you anchored, your efforts can become disjointed and then confusing. So I just shared that example from my friend, right? That is what it leads to. Loss of focus, loss of anchoring, loss of that engagement. But if you have goals, then you are looking forward to something, that you're working towards something, you have an area of focus that you'll be working on. Number 4 is that it is important to stay motivated, and it sure beats procrastination, right? Number 5 is that goal setting is an exercise in determining what you really value. Again, example of my friend should also help you think of that. She was able to finally put some thought into what she really valued, what is important here, and what will make her feel like she's able to get that appropriate value in her life. And next, setting goals helps you achieve even more so than your goals sometimes. The sense of accomplishment that comes from fulfilling your goals is the fuel for even more accomplishments, because now you've tasted the joy of fulfilling that goal, reaching that milestone. Now you start to push yourself towards the next rung of the ladder. You are more likely to challenge yourself to move past another ceiling, right? So you end up achieving much more. So goal setting is great, but you are more likely to achieve your goals if you actually write them down. So I'm hoping as you are going through this episode that you are thinking about taking that 15 or 20 minutes to actually not just brainstorm, but write them down. Why? Because it's a well-known fact that writing them down is going to make you more likely to achieve them. As a matter of fact, Dr. Gail Matthews, she's a psychology professor at Dominican University in California. She found in her study that you are 42% more likely to achieve your goals just by writing them down. So, if you're going through the exercise, you might as well go the extra step to write them down, or at least record them somewhere so that you can return to them, so that you can have those reminders when you need them, and you're 42% more likely to achieve them. Now, beyond even Dr. Matthews' study, multiple neuroscience studies show that writing down goals not only make it more concrete for people, that gives you visual cues, but it also cements that firmly in our memory. And this process is referred to as encoding. And that is why it's more likely that you are going to achieve your goals, because it gets encoded in a different way. The things that we perceive, they travel to our brain's hippocampus, where they are then analyzed. And from there, decisions are made about what gets stored in our long-term memory, and therefore, in turn, what could get discarded. So hopefully we'll discard the useless information, right? And keep what's valuable. Now, writing improves that encoding process. In other words, when you write it down, it has a much greater chance of being remembered, much greater chance of hanging around in that long-term memory. And of course, you can make that even more effective by creating some visual cues for it, reminders that are obvious in your visual field, and they can be as conscious reminders around you all the time. Another thing that happens with writing the goals is called the generation effect. What studies have shown is that people have better memory for material that they've generated themselves than the material that they've merely read or heard, like you're hearing just now from me during this podcast. What would make it even more effective is if you actually write this information down. Therefore, you are going to have a more impactful outcome from this. Writing down your goals will actually provide the double effect. So you're going to have the dual generation effect, and therefore that much more likely that you will follow these. So hopefully I've given you enough to go by. Why is it important to set goals? And secondly, why is it important to actually write them down? So not just thinking about your goals, but also writing them down. Now let's talk about what. What should be in your goals? What goals should you set? Now, I can't quite tell you what goals to set for yourself because that can only be determined by you. But what I can do is help you figure it out. And here are a few things to consider and that you can use to determine what your goals should be. Number 1, think of what gives you joy, what gives you pleasure, what lights you up, and you want to do it more and more. Do it for all spheres of life, right? So think of those things in all spheres of life, whether it's your professional life, your personal life, your relationships, your social life, whatever it might be. Write it all down. And when I say write it all down, I mean no editing. Don't think whether it's realistic or not, whether it's possible or not. Just put it down. Or you could audio record it, video record it, write it down on paper, but create a record of it. And just put everything down, everything that comes to your mind. Again, without any judgment, without any contingencies, just write it down. Number 2, think of things and experiences and achievements or accomplishment that you wish you had or could have that you don't right now. Again, no judgments, no qualifiers, no ifs, no buts. Simply put them all down, every bit of them. Realistic, unrealistic is not something you want to think about right now. Just put it down. Next, think of things you definitely don't wish to be part of your life, the hard lines or the non-negotiables that may be there. So things that are not acceptable, that will make you say, no way. These are things that I'm not willing to budge on, not willing to negotiate, that I'm not willing to let go of, or not willing to take on, whatever it might be, the non-negotiables. Just write them all down without those qualifiers, without the buts, ifs, realism, value attachment, feelings, nothing. Just basically no edits. This is your brain and emotion dump. This is what I call your purge session. A purge session is essential for you. Now you may say, but if I write everything down, how would I know what's important? How would I prioritize it? Or I may want a ton of things. How would I know? How could I achieve all that in this year? And if not, then how would I know what to focus on? Well, that is definitely the next section we're going to talk about. To finalize your goals, you will also need to prune. You'll need to have that prune session. So you had the purge session, then next would be your prune session. And I'll cover that, like I said, in the next section about how to go about that. So for now, just do this part. Do the purge session and move on ahead. You can come back to editing this after we've gone through some of the how steps with me in the next session. Good? Excellent. So let's move on. Here in this section, we will discuss how to go about creating appropriate goals. What are some of the things or steps that you need that will help you in determining the what components of your goal setting even further? In order to make your goals effective, you will need to take stock. In other words, you need to assess where you are at this time, what is your starting point, and what do you already have. And then you will need to have an action plan for moving forward. So let's look at them one by one. So taking stock or your assessment phase. Here are some questions that you can ask to assess where you're starting from. What did I do, create, or experience in the past 12 months, if that's what you're doing, or if this is the first time you are doing this exercise, then what is it so far that I'm already proud of? So let me repeat the question again. What did I do, create, or experience in the past 12 months or so far that I'm really proud of? Now you may say, oh goodness, I don't know. I really didn't do something that big. You will be surprised. Start writing down. Don't put any judgment. It may be however small or big. Trying to call it small or big is a qualifier you're putting on it. That's just a value you place on it. So no judgments here either. I'll give you an example. Recently, in a group of physicians that I'm part of, we did an exercise where we just said, let's report whatever you think you've been able to achieve, just brag about it, whatever it might be. And the reports included people becoming department chiefs, starting podcasts, or starting a new program, or leading a program, to being grateful to have survived from COVID-19, to wearing pants 2 times in this entire time, and to being able to spend time with their family, etc., etc. So it was all over the place, right? And to be honest, this pants wearing 2 times in this entire session got so many cheers and comments from so many members, though most of us hadn't even thought of those as accomplishments as worth mentioning, right? Despite the fact that I personally have not worn anything other than scrubs since this pandemic started. I only wear scrubs to work. And when I'm at home, there's a handful of other very loose-fitting casual clothes that I try to wear most of the times because that's how things have been. And if you know me, if you've known me, you know that I take time to dress up formally. I put a lot of importance and thought into that. That's just me. And going from there to now just living in scrubs and a few casual outfits has been a major change for me. So basically what I'm saying is we tend to be so critical of ourselves and put so much pressure and higher standards on ourselves. But when our friends say the same thing, we don't tell them that those are stupid or inferior or not worth mentioning accomplishments. And therefore, you shouldn't do that to yourself, right? Just do the exercise. Just write down anything and everything, however foolish or trivial you may think it is. Just write it down. Now, next question I want you to consider in this taking assessment and taking stock is, what mistakes did I make that taught me something? Or what lessons did I learn that I can leverage now going forward? Now, we've all heard hindsight is 20/20. And for the first time this year, we can actually say literally that our hindsight is 20/20. It's not original. I got it from someone else, but I thought it was kind of funny. Anyhow, hindsight is not just 20/20, it's also often thick-skinned. Again, not something that I made up, to be honest, but I totally value and agree with. The reason it's thick-skinned is that when we look at something that happened in the past, the distance from that event makes it a little bit easier to look at it more objectively and then take what we want from it. And we can discard all the unnecessary emotions and feelings that sometimes we cannot do in the moment. So it's a really good exercise to take all the lesson learned from things that didn't go as well as you had wanted them to go. So things that didn't go right, not the way that you wanted them to go, or things that you don't want to have to deal with again. So leave that feeling, leave that outcome behind you. But what you should do is think of the lesson or the things that came out of that you can leverage for moving forward. Use them positively so that you're not going to end up in that situation again. So think of those things. And you can do this exercise as frequently as you want. You could do this weekly if you like, as you plan. It's not just about the year that's gone behind, but as you move forward into 2021, once you do your goal setting, you can evaluate your progress and think of the week that has passed, or the month that has passed, or the quarter that has passed. Whatever your frequency feels right for you, this exercise will help make you assess whether you are on track for your goals. So I'm jumping a little bit ahead here, but this will also help you assess whether you're on track. But more importantly, as I said, it will help you take the objective information and the lessons that you can leverage to ensure that your progress does stay on track. And the third step I want you to take in this assessment phase is, what am I willing to let go of? What are the projects, things, commitments, thoughts, or beliefs that no longer serve you and are still hanging around? So what is that dead weight that you can shed? Like I said, it could be things, commitments, projects, thoughts, beliefs, or feelings. For example, I had some clothes that I hadn't worn from 10 to 12 years, but they were great clothes. They were really good condition. They were high quality. I thought perhaps I should be able to wear them again at some point, and these are really good, so I shouldn't get rid of them, or perhaps I can give them to someone that I know and really care about. But like I said, for the 10 to 12 years I just carried them, they occupied space in my closet and made it harder for me to find the clothes that I actually wanted to wear. They were just taking up space and adding to my confusion when I needed to pick clothes. Clearly, that wasn't an issue this year. Like I said, I've been wearing and living mostly in my scrubs for work. But you get my point though, right? That these were things that we were carrying unnecessarily that I finally let go of. And those are things. But as I said, there are feelings and fears and other things that we also hold on to. Just get rid of them. Get rid of what is holding you back, what is no longer serving you. Anything that does not align with you right now or with what you wish to become or achieve going forward, shed it, prune it. This is where the pruning will come in, but we'll talk about the pruning in just a little bit more. Get rid of it. I know it's easier said than done, but at least you must try. Do this exercise. That itself will show you the way forward. So how do we do this? How do we prune? First of all, start with yourself. Take it inwards. And when I talk about taking it inwards, I know I talked about getting rid of the clothes and the art supplies, which is all external stuff. But even more important is the stuff that we hold on to internally. So what are the emotions or feelings that you are willing to get rid of? That's what you have to think about. We hold on to anger, resentment, frustration, embarrassment, shame, fear, self-criticism, guilt, etc. The list goes on and on. All these negative feelings, all these negative emotions that might be holding us all back and that we are holding on to. We all do. Another one of my beliefs that I had to let go of last year was not putting out my work until it was quote unquote perfect. What I mean is, I had often wanted and tried inconsistently too on that to do these Facebook Lives. And I wanted to and needed to do them regularly, but I would be very inconsistent. And these are Facebook Lives that I do for the parents and children with chronic pain. It's a community that I run online on Facebook. We have an invitation-only group. It's free, but I moderate that. And I would want to do these topics, that videos or Facebook Lives on these topics that I know are important, that are valued, but somehow I would get cold feet because I had this fear of video, how I may look or sound. But at some point, I finally decided to show up no matter what. even if I don't look or sound quote unquote perfect. But as long as I was bringing some value to them, I knew this information was valuable. I just had to get over that hump to show up and give that value. Once I started doing them though, and once I got into that mindset of it is valuable to them, so therefore I'm bringing it. And on top of that, I saw the comments of the attendees and their consistent attendance and presence during these Facebook Lives. That helped me to let go of my own fear, my self-criticism, and this feeling of embarrassment. So now it's your turn. Think of what stories you might be telling yourself, and who might you become if you completely let go of those disempowering stories. So do this exercise. There's a beautiful quote by the Sufi poet Rumi. Be like a tree and let the dead leaves drop. So it's your turn to let the dead weight, the dead leaves drop, right? Once you've done that work with your internal, the inward work with your feelings and your thoughts and your emotions, now you go back to the what section where you put all the things down and use this principle of what you're willing to let go in order to help you prune and help you achieve your priorities, right? Think about what are the things that you can let go? What are the things that are dead weight? What are those things that you perhaps think you might get around to someday, but they're just hanging around because you're not really getting around to it because there's other stuff that requires more attention or is more important to you clearly? That's what you need to use this principle to determine what those priorities should be. Another framework to use when you're determining your priorities for your goals is to think about what are you saying no to in order to say yes to something. That'll help you think whether it's a fair investment or an appropriate risk-benefit ratio. We do that for our patients and families all the time. Why can't we do that for ourselves, right? The assessment of that risk-benefit ratio or thinking of returns on your investment. Whatever mind frame helps you, use that in determining what your priorities should be. My own decision to quit my full-time job, a secure paycheck. It was a leadership academic position. I'd always wanted to be in academia all my life and had spent the 13, 14 years of my life doing that. But I had quickly realized that what I had thought about as the ideal position for me at that time had come at a very heavy price, which clearly wasn't very obvious to me when I took it. Amongst other things, it was costing me my relationship with my family. I felt that I was beginning to be a little resentful of the fact that I was holding on to the security, in quotes, of this job that was becoming very burdensome in many ways. I was feeling stuck because I felt an obligation as the breadwinner of the family to provide financial security for my family. And I hated the thought of inconveniencing my family with, say, another move, because that's really what it meant, right? For the work that I was doing in academic institution, pediatric pain and palliative care. So I would only get that kind of leadership academic position if I moved our whole family to another large academic institution. So what did I do? I was trying everything I could do to, quote unquote, make it work, until I realized that I was so short-tempered, so irritable. I hated going to work. And most importantly, I was feeling negatively towards the very people that I was doing this for, the people that I didn't want to inconvenience and hurt. And I wanted to shelter them from the negative outcomes of not having a secure job, but I was exposing them to the negative outcomes of what this quote-unquote secure job was doing to our relationship. And once I was able to be honest with myself and take the time to consider that question honestly and mindfully, I realized that staying in that job meant I was saying yes to my resentment for my family, the people that I love so much. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes things will fall apart. Things change, institutions change, times change. What could be more life-changing than the year that we just went through, right? So those things will come up. So don't be too harsh. Don't be too rigid. It's okay. But think of what is important now in this year. And even within this year, it is important to assess and reassess, as we're going to talk about in just a moment, so that you can think about whether it's still in alignment with what you want to overall achieve and whether you're keeping progress, or do you need to change or pivot or do something else. Like I said, 2020 is the greatest example of having to reassess, recalibrate, and pivot. So just be kind and be a little flexible and gracious to yourself. And you can only do that if you actually have some structure that you can follow and reassess and reevaluate from. So this leads us naturally to the next section, which is our action plan, which will help us determine how we can make sure that we are on track to reach our goals. First of all, you needed to make the plans, which hopefully we have figured out with your Purge session and then the pruning session. You've able to identify your goals. You've able to identify your priorities. Now, we need an action plan. How would you know? How do you make sure that you actually get to the result that you want to get? Because if you don't, then you'll be even more frustrated that you went through this exercise and now what? Nothing. I haven't moved forward. So what kind of action plan can you have? What are the steps you can take to make progress? Obviously, create your goals and write them down. And we've gone through that extensively in the exercise earlier with purging and pruning. And I'll reiterate one more time that when you write the goals down, your brain processes them more effectively than when you are not writing them down. So make sure not only do you think about them, but you write them down. And if you really, really want them to be more effective, then you should even create some visual cues. Have some pictures that will be associated with them. Have videos or any other visual cues. Again, research data shows that our brain processes the images 60,000 times faster than just a thought or plain written text. So number one, you are creating and writing your goals. Be mindful of what they are. What do they look like? Create those visual cues. What is it that you want to accomplish or achieve? And that should be done for all spheres, right? Not just for your work, but your personal life as well as your social life, right? Because they're all interconnected. They all impact each other. Next, think about what kind of results or outcomes would tell you that you've been successful. So think of some of the outcomes or results. And this is not about feelings. These are not like, oh, how I would feel. Instead, these are concrete results and outcomes. So it's not like, I'll just feel happier. I will feel more accomplished. That is vague. That is not specific enough, and that's not measurable. You wouldn't know. How would you track that you're feeling more accomplished or more happy? And happiness can come from so many different things, right? So what you want to instead do is know, I want to have more time to spend with my family, and not just more time. What does that more time look like? What is it? Is it 30 minutes more a day? So I want to be home 30 minutes a day earlier, or I want to have 2 extra hours in a day or an extra hour in a week. Whatever that might be, think of it that way. So not feelings, concrete results. Next, consider what would having those outcomes give you? We just talked about, I'll feel more happy. Again, Think of what you are looking for, your priorities, your non-negotiables, whether it's time, money, better schedule, awards, recognitions, publications, whatever it might be that you're looking for. But then think of are those measurables? Can you track them? Okay. Number 2 in the action plan is considering the question, what would need to happen in the next 12 months, or ideally throughout the next 12 months, that would tell you that you are on track? For example, taking the example of more time. You want to work part-time so that you can have more time with your family, or more time to pursue another hobby or career, or whatever your travel, whatever it might be, right? What would that be? How much time would that be? How many days a year, or per month, or per week, or how many hours a day? Be specific. Think about what would need to happen so that you would know that it is happening. If you're thinking about more publications, you're going up for promotion, then thinking about how many papers do you need to write, or how many studies you need to be part of, how many teaching evaluation do you need to have, how many grand rounds you need to give, whatever those requirements might be. Think of how much of those need to happen in the next 12 months. And ideally, you're going to want to break that down into smaller pieces that's more achievable, so that it's easier to keep track of it. How many in the first quarter, how many in the next, or how many even in a month, right? And do the same exercise for your personal goals. Say you're thinking about learning a new hobby, a new skill, or a weight loss, or healthier eating, or relationships. So make those also concrete. Number 3, who will you have to become to achieve these goals? So first one was about identifying and defining your goals. Number 2 was about the action that needs to be taken and to be tracked in order to know that you're on progress. Number 3 will be, what would you need to do? Who would you need to be? How would you need to think? And you might say, I don't know. What might help you is to visualize or imagine that you've already achieved your goals. Now you think, what did you learn? What did you let go of? So what did you learn in the process so that you were able to achieve this? Who are you at that time? What person are you? And in order to become that person, what did you have to let go of? Or what did you have to adopt or acquire as a skill, as a thinking or feeling or emotion or your attitude? What are those things? And number 4 dovetails into it. What concrete habits or skills will you have to acquire in order to achieve that? So that visualization, that thinking back, might help you think about what skills or habits you might need in order to achieve your goals over the next 12 months. Make sense? It may sound more daunting. It is a very easy exercise. And remember, it is just an exercise. The beauty is that you can change it as time goes on, as you evolve. And remember, setting goals is more likely to make you more focused, more motivated, and more likely to achieve even more than what you set out to achieve. The 5th thing that's important as an action plan is accountability. You also need to think about what will keep you, or who will keep you accountable. Some of the strategies people use, you write them down as one of them, and you review it regularly. You have it in an obvious site that'll be a constant reminder to you. Another thing you can do is announce it. Announce it publicly. So then you have to be able to do it, right? So one of the things I ended up doing for those Facebook Lives I was talking to you about earlier, I created a month-long schedule and published it. So every week we were publishing the schedule. First the month-long schedule, and then every week reminders that I'm going to do that. And those were reminders obviously for people to attend, but also, more importantly, for my own self. It was an accountability thing that I was doing for myself. For the next year, one of our goals is to create a scholarship for our Physicians Academy for low-income countries like Africa, South America, India, Asia. So countries where pediatric pain management is needed and the training is not available. Our goal is to create one scholarship position each year. So there, I have made it public. You're the first ones to hear about it. Now I have no excuse but to actually make it happen in 2021. Another thing you can do is find someone you trust. You may not want to announce it publicly like this to a lot of people, but you may want somebody that you trust to help you stay on track and keep you accountable. You may also think about a coach, and that's who could be your accountability person. So getting a coach is important for so many reasons, but this could also be one of those things, right? One of the things the coach does best is help you achieve or move towards your goal. They help you get to your goal, help you identify your goals and get to them. And finally, you can also think of how you would celebrate. Sometimes just focusing on that celebration makes so much difference. It just makes you more motivated and wanting to accomplish that as soon and as effectively as possible. Other things that make it achievable are breaking down your goals, as we had talked about earlier. Break them down into smaller ones. Break them by months, weeks, or quarters, or even just take the project or the big goal and break it down into steps. What would each one of the steps look like if they have those? For example, you want to write a paper, right? You want to write a review paper. Break it down. You want to create an outline. That would be one step. You want to get your literature search done. That would be another goal. And you can put timelines on those, and then you want to create a first draft, or who you want to have it edit, who you want to have as co-authors. So break those down into small ones and finally get to the end result. Another thing that's helpful for accountability is those visual reminders. We've talked about those a couple of times at this point, so use them. Use your pictures, videos, whatever it might be that motivates you. You can assess and review your progress using your milestones and little trackable pieces that you've done. And you can help answer your own question about what would need to happen throughout the next 12 months to keep you on track, right? So, and follow those little steps. So I hope this has given you a good framework, a stepwise approach to creating and pursuing your goals for a proactive and productive 2021. If you have any strategies and frameworks that you use to approach your new year, we would love to hear from you. Please share them in the comments. And if you wish to share your goals and use us as your accountability platform, we would love that. Let us know. We will declare that for you if that is what you want. We can even commit to checking in with you on a quarterly basis or however long an interval you want it to be, so that we can help you stay with your progress throughout the year. Here's to your success in year 2021. If you found this episode useful, share it with others. Somebody that might be able to use this framework and might be able to achieve their goals. Also, please provide us your reviews. And as you know, medicine podcasts aren't the most popular viral things either. But if you find this useful, you know there are other people that might find it useful as well. And your reviews are an easy way to make it available to them, even if you don't know them personally. I also ask you to submit your comments, your questions, or suggestions for topics that you may wish to hear more about. We would love to answer the questions and thoughts and topics that you want to learn about. With that, I will wrap up for today. I'll be back with you all in 1 week. Until then, please stay safe, be proactive, be productive, and bye now. Pedia Pain Focus is a presentation of Proactive Pain Solutions, a company committed to transforming pediatric pain care through improved access, quality, and expertise. Did you know that there are only 4 accredited pediatric pain medicine training programs in the US? Meanwhile, there are 19 million children that suffer from chronic pain. This means the children's pain care is largely left in the hands of untrained healthcare professionals. This large gap in children's pain care leaves both the healthcare professionals as well as patients and families frustrated. Data clearly shows that untreated or poorly treated pain in children leads to a much higher incidence of refractory chronic pain that lasts into adulthood, much higher incidence of mental health diagnoses, and a massive societal burden. It also leads to poor job satisfaction and poor job security for healthcare professionals. Proactive Pain Solutions Physicians Academy is the answer to this major problem, eliminating that large gap through our comprehensive evidence-based virtual training program that's bolstered by live Q&A sessions, personalized mentorship, and leadership development. The limited time enrollment is now open and it offers a limited number of spots. So join our academy today and know what it's like to have the expertise at your fingertips while you enjoy the professional satisfaction and the job security that you deserve. Join us at www.proactivepainsolutions.com.